Hi, I'm Erica, and I'm your host of Power by Joy podcast. And here we're talking to you if you are someone who feels angry, stuck, frustrated, maybe just on the daily feel like you just don't feel, maybe you feel helpless to make change in your life, and you really just want to feel more alive again, or maybe for the first time, and be experiencing a little bit more joy on a consistent, hopefully daily basis. And you want to do this without sacrificing your commitment to your family and your friends, then you're in the right place. We're on a quest to explore how to bring that into our lives. And so today we're talking about the sexy subject of self-care. Can be like a snooze fest when you're actually doing it, but the end result can be very sexy. So um, we will talk about it in a little bit different angle. I want to talk about it in the thought of like, if you think about life is like a race, right? And I like to tie things to the racetrack. And when you're doing a sport around motorsports, for some of us, we do it around good weather. So there's like an off season because some of us don't love the rain, and we live in areas where that's not as available. So there's an off season, and in the off season, you are hopefully maintaining your, let's say we'll go with our motorcycles. Hopefully you're bringing the bikes back, you're cleaning them, you're maintaining them. Maybe you're doing an oil change, just going through the bike to see if there's any maintenance that needs to be done. Maybe you need new tires, or need, it could be anything, but you're taking that time off season. And other things you might be doing are learning. Maybe you're watching YouTube videos and you're watching other people do laps to see what they're doing that makes them faster than you. Maybe you're reviewing and reflecting video that you recorded of yourself or had someone record of you to see what you were doing right and what you weren't doing right. And there's there's lots of things you can be doing in the off season. I also think of like in business, like in real estate, there can be ebbs and flows. And let's say things aren't as hopping and busy. There can be times where you're twiddling your thumbs and going, okay, I don't have any client appointments today. Using those seasons and times to actively grow, learn, take some classes, take some time to learn something that you can pass on to your clients and help educating them during those times. Um, so you're also maybe taking time to reach out to people that you haven't touched base with in a while, or just maybe you're doing some maintenance of your files and cleanup and paperwork, right? Maybe you're cleaning your office and organizing your office in the downtime or when things aren't quite as busy. And then I think in regards to health, there's not really an off season or a downtime, but we are going through our days where we're doing and on and have to accomplish things. And then we might have some downtime, hopefully, or rest or sleep. And what are those things that we're doing in those other hours of the day that could allow for you to be doing a little bit of self-care? So when I go back also to the beginning of my quest for kind of improving my life, feeling happier, feeling a little bit more joy, I really found that this self-care thing just kind of came up. And I did come across an amazing book at the time by Hal Elrod, and I remember an author's name. Sweet. And the book was called Miracle Morning. And it definitely set me on an adventure of trying to like figure out a morning routine that set me up for my best day. So my off season was before work hours, and then there was my work hours and also family time. And when I before this, I was trying to just charge into my day. I'd wake up and just spend the whole day reacting to everything as it came to me and didn't set any intention. So it just kind of felt like I was on this roller coaster ride of life that I just had no rhythm to it. You just didn't know what was coming and how you're going to deal with it. It just felt like there's always stuff coming at me and I was having to just react. And one of the things I found is that as I was kind of exploring spiritual things and and my health and trying to figure out how to improve my health, because I was having all these neck and back issues and it was turning to all these other symptoms that were really distracting. It's really hard to be productive react or respond well and not be a total bitch when you're living in chronic pain and fatigue and you have brain fog from the pain so bad that like when anything comes at you, it all feels overwhelming. Everything feels like too much. Everything feels stressful and makes you feel like I can't do today. I can't take one more thing. If that clerk at the checkout looks at me sideways, I'm gonna whip out my sword. Okay, so I remember very much being in that spot, and I wasn't getting answers from doctors, and I wasn't getting results from the typical routes that are told to us. And so I went on a discovery quest to try to find some tools for myself because I wasn't getting any changes or improvement in my health and just coping with life. And I just felt really stressed and overwhelmed, despite the fact that I was surrounded by love and support and connection. I had loving family and friends during those hard years, and I still had these struggles and felt like, why am I so like, oh, I'm just don't feel good. And so in that quest, I started to realize that part of that was tending to my mind, body, and my spirit or my soul, just having to really commit to exploring what I needed to feel better. And so I think when we think about self-care, you think of it like a foundation. You have this foundation. And if you don't have a foundation in place of self-care where you've got your basic needs being met of your mind, body, and spirit, then it's really hard to be in a place where you're ready to jump on new opportunities. It's really hard to see opportunities and connections around you. It's hard to be in gratitude. It's hard to have energy to go have an experience that brings you massive joy and pleasure, or it's really hard to be able to think clearly, to put together an offer and negotiate if you can't think straight and make that phone call and then you forget that text. Like if the foundation's not there, it's really hard to think you're going to be ready. Same thing as the track. Like if you're not doing that stuff off season and then the season comes and you arrive and you haven't done anything to your bike and you pull up and you go out on the track and you start having mechanical issues and you're like, oh, what? Maybe it's because you didn't take the time to do the boring stuff. People can perceive self-care or maintenance like that boring. It just is. And then when you wait and don't do the self-care, and then you're in the situation where you need to perform or you have the situation where you're ready and there's an opportunity in front of you, you aren't as ready. Things can go wrong. And then you're in a place of reacting instead of responding. And then you're in a place of stress and you don't experience a bunch of blessings and joy and peace when you're reacting and everything just feels like another, brick in your backpack. It just doesn't work. So I hope I'm building a good case of why it's worth exploring these things, tending to your mind, body, and spirit. So for me, I created something that I call my Sexy Six. It took me forever to come up with the name, but I realized that if I could consistently, I would love to do the 7 days a week, but honestly, if I'm hitting 5 days a week, I'm giving myself a gold star on my chart. So if it's 3, I'm like, okay, that's a silver star. It's not a gold star, but 5 days, gold star. And when I do at least that, I find that overall, life happens, but overall, I'm much more capable and feel a lot less overwhelmed. And when things do happen unexpected or that don't go right, my bounce back time, I think back to when I first started using these tools, something might set me back emotionally, which then trickled down to me having no energy, nothing. I didn't want to move my body. Like it all just kind of like melted down. And it could take me 3 days, a week. I'd be like, well, yep, that was a bad week. And now, sometimes it's almost within a few minutes. I'm like, oh, okay. Or I have enough tools for self-care that I can put those in play. And maybe something really tough that's challenging, maybe hangs with me a day or two, but like it's not to the same level. I don't feel like I sink down to the same depth of feeling despair or frustration or anger. So the emotional swing is a lot less. It's never gonna not be there. Then you're not living. If you're just like, that's boring. So one of the things that happens is if we try to hit that self-care and aim for at least 5 days a week, we're building that foundation. And when we do this on a consistent basis, which I used to feel claustrophobia when I thought about the word and someone being super consistent, I just felt like I couldn't breathe and it sounded boring. And now I think of, oh, that's somebody who has grit. There's somebody who has confidence and trust in themselves. They keep their commitments and like they must accomplish their dreams and goals. That's what I think of now. And I think of how consistency just builds that trust in ourselves, that is hard to find. And then it makes it easier for us to trust other people. And we want to have more joy in our lives and be able to make change. And that comes from the little off-season stuff that no one sees. No, it's not the sexy thing. It can feel so boring to get up and do another workout at the gym or wherever you work out. And, this morning it was like, I don't want to work out this morning. I did not want to. And so one of the things I found is like, okay, on occasion, it needs to look different. And today I felt particularly rebellious against my routine, which I haven't felt this way in a long time. And I was like, no, I'm not doing my workouts when I normally do, just because I don't want to. And so my inner child was kind of squawking a little bit this morning. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm going to go walk outside because then I'm still moving and it's okay to do something different. Sometimes we need to just completely shift if we're feeling like we're just kind of stuck. So I still kept that commitment to do something, right? And so it's important to have some flexibility sometimes and find a way to make things easier so we get to keep the commitment. And sometimes we have to give our selves permission to have a down day and have compassion with ourselves because sometimes our mind and our spirit need that love and care, just a soft space or a quiet space, or maybe you just need to be super quiet and listen to music, just tuning in. What is the thing? Or maybe you do need to work out, but you need to lift really heavy weights, or you need to go run or do a hike that really exhausts you. But all of that, moving our bodies. But for me, it's that I have like I said, I have sexy six. So I feel like I'm jumping around a little bit, but here's mine. And they just have to happen within the day. And most of it happens, the prep starts in the morning. So first thing is, I have to do my yoga first because if I don't stretch at least 5 days a week, I got some pain that comes right back. Just like, hello, my friend. And so stretching, and then I do a workout of some sort. And sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's longer, but I try to listen to what I feel like I need. And I try to hit that 5 days a week so that my heart gets pumping enough to clear my brain, clear the stuck energy in my body. Cause I find that uh, when I don't do that, like I feel this like tension in my body and like an anxious, not anxiety, but like, it took me a long time to realize that this feeling that I had in my body that was like tense was just that my body was wanting movement. It didn't need something specific. It just wanted to move I wanted more oxygen. It needed my blood to pump, my heart to be pumping. And I find that if I get my heart rate up for like 15 minutes or more, then like it really clears things out for me. And so I can have a fresh brain to this like, okay, rest of the day can go. So I have a rule for myself that I can't like come out into the rest of the house until I get my workout done. And that way things don't take over and I will get distracted. I will see a squirrel moment, shiny object. I'm like, oh no, whatever. And I will not come back to the thing. So I have a hard, fast rule for myself that I have to do those things before I exit my bedroom space and get on my phone or any of that stuff. So the next thing is, so that's my first is the working out and the stretching. And then my second step is that I take some time and I do some meditation and visualization. So um, I'm praying, I'm setting some intentions. I may be just kind of checking in with myself, sitting quiet with some meditation. Then I take a few minutes at the end to really visualize like my dreams and my goals, and also just kind of feeling gratitude. One of the things I learned with Tony Robbins is stacking, like gratitude. You can stack bad emotions, but and memories and thoughts, and you can also stack good ones and positive. So I will sit for a minute and I will think about things that make me feel so much love in my body. So it might be holding one of my grandkids and like having a really fun, playful moment where I feel them laugh, hear them laughing, and just really being in the moment, taking it. How did it feel? How did they smell? What were they wearing? And I'm just like, And then you can layer and stack another memory like that. So maybe it's on a vacation, you got to do something really amazing and it made you just feel so excited. Like you can stack a couple memories up and like build that and think about it and anchor it in your heart. And that literally changes the chemistry in your body. And when you're in that gratitude, it dissipates tension, fear, anger. You can't have both at the same time in your body. So that's my step 2. And it doesn't have to take very long, but I like to do that. And I do have a planner, which I did not have just a few years ago. I did not have one. So this is new as well. Cause before I'd be like, no, hell no, I'm not writing out. Anyways, now I'm that person and now I love it. So it is not my hard fast, but inside that I have my goals, so I can look at them and see them as well visually. And I usually will glance at that before I start meditating and praying. And so that's step 2, meditation, visualize. And then I will journal as a step. And I know a lot of people don't like to think of that, but for me, I recently did some posts about that. And I'll probably do another video going a little bit more in depth about journaling and different ways you can do it, because there's lots of different techniques out there, tons of them. And I think it's fun to try different ones and see which ones like really feel easier for you. Cause like I felt sometimes it was very overwhelming to do different styles that I'd learned. So you got to find the one that works for you so that you'll just do it, right? Okay, so there's the journal, and then it's about hydrating. For me, staying hydrated, trying to remember to drink lots of water in the day. And that is an ongoing quest for me. And I also want to be eating foods that feel good in my body and are delicious as well. An ongoing battle, but learning to eat foods that make my body happy, and everybody has their own individual one. So I'm not making any sort of medical recommendations here, but for me, I had to get rid of like gluten and dairy and eggs and a few other little things, but that process has not been so joyful. But one thing I've been committed to is trying to look at it as a discovery, kind of like a puzzle, like taking the time, go on Pinterest and looking and trying to find really good recipes or ideas to try, so that it doesn't feel like I'm missing out on something, but more that like I'm going to find foods that I enjoy eating, that my body is happy when I ingest them. So I am not getting brain fog and can't sleep at night or having bad stomach aches and stomach issues. And so these are all so foundational, but I spent most of my adult life ignoring all of that and just going and really not taking the care my body wanted. So now I'm getting to fix all that at this point, right? And it's definitely been a journey, but worth doing. And it's definitely not sexy. And I miss the fuck out of pizza. Come on. Oh, bad. Thick crust pizza. This cauliflower crap just not happening for me. Don't even recommend cauliflower crust to me. Just don't. It's just not the same. Okay. I'm going to stop thinking about it. So, that is the next step, is the hydrating, and then delicious food. And then when I think about the whole day, I put a category for love and affection. So that would be whether you have a partner or not, either expressing your love and appreciation for them, showing them affection. Maybe you're getting some O's and some pleasure that way, solo or partnered, and just taking that time. But maybe it's that you're texting your friend or your cousin or your kid or your mom and just saying, hey, thinking about you, love you so much, because those outreaches and putting that love out, that is something that helps us feel better and does bring us joy, those acts. So I find that hitting those really help me overall if I'm consistent with them. Then when I look back, it just creates this foundation where I'm going through the day and I'm definitely setting intentions. I'm definitely in a headspace where I'm reacting because I stayed in control of my day by starting it when I was done taking care of myself first. So it's kind of like how people that advise on finances are like, you have to pay yourself, pay your savings first, or you're on the airplane and they're like, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before the baby. Same thing. This is the equivalent of putting your oxygen mask on so that you can be there for everybody else that needs stuff from you. And that last one, the affection and love, like I would hope that at some point you might even be able to have enough brain space to like seek some pleasure out of the day and whatever that means to you. And so that could be your bonus one, but that is something that I think we don't even have brain space for. When we don't have a foundation of self-care where we're just taking care of the basics, then we aren't open to receiving. And so we don't even see the signs, or like, if you are, praying and there's something you're really desiring, and maybe there's this cool miracle that happens right in front of you and you don't even see it because you're so tired, you're so discouraged, you just feel so hopeless, that sometimes we're in that place. It's hard to see the miracles and the blessings that are happening in our lives every day that you just don't see. And we got to like take those blinders off, and we can't usually do that if we're in survival mode. That there's no foundation when we're in survival mode. So when we take these proactive steps that are not sexy, but behind the scenes, we're doing the maintenance, we're doing the regular everyday thing. Okay, I got to get in here. I need to move my body. I need to write and get the crap out by journaling, or I want to write and I'm going to spend some time writing all about the things I desire and dream of. uh, you know, and I'm also going to take care of my body by drinking plenty of water and eating right. But also, I forgot about sleep. Like, come on, sleep, our body desires regular good sleep. So all of this is not necessarily fun, but just like in the off season for the track or in business, like if you aren't working on those foundational basics, then it's really hard to take the opportunities when they come or even see them arrive. And if you aren't feeling good and moving your body to keep yourself feeling some strength and vitality and flexibility, and your son invites you to go on a hike and you're like, I can't do that, I don't take good enough care of my body, you've just missed out on making a memory with your child, and you're not going to be here forever. And it's robbing you and them of joy and pleasure and memories that you could have together. And so somebody recently said, are you willing to die for your family? Would you die for them? And most people are like, yeah, hell yeah, I would. But you don't hear people asking this question. Are you willing to live for your loved ones? Are you willing to live your life in a way that you can show up when the opportunities happen? Can you show up physically to go play with your grandkids and run around and pick them up? And are you able to, travel if you want to? So, or, write those contracts or make business connections, whatever it may be. It's a lot easier to take those opportunities, see the opportunities, and move on them when we have the foundation in place and our heads right and our hearts right and our bodies right. So all of that kind of covers why I believe the self-care practice is so important. It develops a grit so that when you do face challenges, they just maybe don't feel as hard. So think about this. I was just talking to my son about this, and we were talking about how you basically can choose your hard. So you can choose your hard being you miss time out because you're sitting at the doctor's office and dealing with health issues, or you miss out and spend the time at the gym working out and getting stronger, or you miss out on, you know, you can miss out with food, like you can miss out on the delicious, tasty pizza, or you can choose the heart of missing out on eating the pizza and not having pain. You get to miss out on having a horrible, wretched stomach ache. I mean, like, pick your heart. Like, that can apply to anything. Like, we can pick what's hard. It's picking up the phone and dialing and asking or making that reach out in conversation, or the pain of not getting any business because you haven't been putting in the time and the work, right? Pick your hard. So we get to pick our hard. And I think when we pick the hard of committing and showing up to do self-care on a regular basis in our lives, then it creates this foundation and we build this grit and it builds strength. It grows us. And the person who does this on a consistent basis, it takes growth. You grow as a person when you show up and keep your commitments. You just can't not grow. Like, you're going to grow if you do this and keep at it. And you do see fruit, and it is not the instantaneous thing in most cases, but there is the payoff. So it makes us more resilient and confident and ready to go when we have the fun opportunities and exciting adventures that we can take, then we're ready to go. So I wanted to make sure I don't forget here, but I wanted to, the other thing I like to recommend in this growth, and you'll find it if you check out the Miracle Morning book too, is he also had you read each morning. He has a little bit different morning routine, but I try at some point during the day to read like one chapter or a few pages of a book so that I'm regularly growing somehow too. So that's something you can add into that. Everyone needs to find their own morning routine. I have a friend that calls them her M&Ms because it's like meditation and mindfulness or movement. So we can all come up with their own clever name that makes it a little bit more fun to think of doing. That's why I don't like to call it my self-care. I like to call it my sexy six. And so it puts us in that position to experience more joy and pleasure in our lives, right? I realize I'm talking with my hands a lot today. So the thing I was thinking would maybe be, I like to try to think of breaking things down into easier steps to get started, because I think back to when I first started and it was overwhelming to try to add a whole bunch of stuff in. So I would challenge you to get out your notebook and just take some notes about some ideas, or maybe on your phone, you have a note app where you can make some notes. But I would like you to think of 3 things. So first, mind, body, and spirit. Okay. And I would like you to write down one thing in each area that you could do that is showing up for yourself and developing a self-care habit. Let's call it a habit instead of a routine. Call it a self-care rhythm, self-care flow, whatever you want it to be. But we'll do mind, body, spirit. So maybe first of all, you just write those 3 down, and then mind, you're like, okay, I'm going to read 20 pages a week of a book that is going to grow me as a person, not just for funsies. And then body, you're going to agree to go and start walking 10 minutes a day, or you're going to agree to stretch for 10 minutes a day. Just one thing regarding your body that you can do to show up and start developing some routine or grit or strength or like that, showing up or building a muscle here. And then the last one is spirit. So whether it's just making yourself sit quietly and breathing for 1 minute, just breathe for 1 minute quietly, just noticing your breath and being thankful that you woke up today and you can breathe. Because there are people that are struggling to take their breath, or they may take their last breath today. Don't forget that. We have to stay in that gratitude. So it might be just that, or maybe it's that you wake up and you say a prayer before you let your feet touch the ground. You say a prayer of gratitude, whatever it may be. So one thing to tend to your spirit. So that's 3 things. So then you're not feeling overwhelmed by my sexy 6 or a long routine. Just pick 3 things. And if that even feels like too much, I would say to start, just start with one of the 3 categories. So maybe next week, the one thing you start doing is going for a walk. Do it for 1 week, and then you add on. So whatever it is, see if you can add it onto another habit. That's another trick I learned from a book I read, Atomic Habits, and that one talks about habit stacking. So you are wanting to develop a new habit, so then it becomes a part of your identity and who you are. So then it's not an effort. So I've gotten to the point where this morning routine, most days, I don't even think about it. I just get up and do it in it because it's become who I am. So it's a habit. It doesn't take a bunch of mental effort to do because it's just who I am. That's what I do in the mornings, right? So think of maybe, okay, after I brush my teeth, I am going to not leave the bathroom or my bedroom, until I've done like push-ups, squats, and sit-ups. And you do that for 1 week each day, 10 of each or something, if you have no movement habits at all for working out your body at this point. Whatever it may be, you have to do what's right for you. Again, I'm not making any suggestions that you have to check with medical providers first or whatever. But what I'm saying is just pick a habit that you already have. Like I brush my teeth. And so how can I say, okay, until I have done my little movement or stretching, then I brush my teeth, and then I leave my, whatever the thing is, just stack it onto something you're already doing. It can really help you kind of normalize that to where it becomes a habit you don't have to really think about. So then you find success in doing the self-care. Once you kind of get that and it feels easier, then maybe add the next one. But if you're already doing some of that, maybe looking at your morning routine, and maybe you're doing a little bit of it, but you're not getting a lot of punch out of it. You're not seeing a lot of rewards from it. Like, so is there one area or a couple that maybe you need to change it up, do something different so that you're getting more out of it, or you're feeling more improvement in your body or your energy or your peace and your joy, or the amount of pleasure you're experiencing? So I hope that made it a little sexier when we think about how, when we laid the foundation, our mind, body, and spirit are much more capable of receiving and noticing, experiencing, being open to joy and pleasure and adventures and just gratitude that we're here breathing. So, okay, we're just cutting into this video because after recording all of that, I had a couple more thoughts that came to me when I was half asleep. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about these things. So I'm cutting to this to close up this episode and share a couple more things that I forgot. So we talked about my sexy 6, which is like my daily steps that I try to get in as my overall self-care to feel my best, right? And so I wanted to make sure and mention that I'm going to have those listed out more clearly and visually in my show notes. And then I also wanted to talk about that there are tips I have that give you more chances for success that I've learned through coaching and practice and reading and all the things. I'm also going to list below in the show notes The couple of books that have been helpful for me in establishing a morning routine and also just like a daily self-care practice that goes throughout the day, like hydrating and eating well. So the big thing I wanted to talk about is that first, for success, we want to keep it simple. Because if you make it too complicated, too many steps, it's not going to work. So just starting simple and short is usually best first, doing things shorter, and maybe you add on time as you figure out how to accommodate these things. And then second was, we talked about attaching it to another habit you already have. So you're like, okay, maybe you temporarily have to put a bracelet on your wrist, or you have to put a sticky on your bathroom mirror. So it might be that you have to temporarily remind yourself until it becomes a habit that you tack it on to brushing your teeth, or when you go to get dressed, or when you let the dogs out to go to the bathroom, whatever it is, you're like, okay, when I do that, I always do this now. I'm going to do this before I do this, whatever it is. So stack it to another thing you already do until it becomes a habit and part of your identity. And then the third step for helping you with success is scheduling it or picking when. So maybe it's attached to your taking the dogs out to go to the bathroom in the morning. So you say the night before, or you stick it up on notes, or maybe you have a calendar and you put a reminder in your calendar so it reminds you to do this until it becomes a habit, but you schedule and put it on the calendar until it becomes part of your identity. So it might feel silly, but like in my planner, I might not have these in my actual Google Calendar, but on my planner, where I spend time each week kind of setting my intentions for the week. Everything's not best for an exact time, but I'm like, okay, in the top 3 hours of the morning, I'm going to hit these 5 things. So that's me scheduling it. So pick a time, schedule it. You'll have, I can't remember the percentages, but it really pushes up your success rate quite high when you actually schedule it and put it on a calendar. If it's on your calendar, it doesn't exist, is what Coach Camille says. So, and then the last thing that I think really helps is accountability. There are apps for accountability. There's a lot of morning ones that exist as well. And maybe someday down the road, that will be something I'll look at. But as of right now, I do mine with a visual handwriting because I like to do that. But when it comes to accountability, I'm tracking what I'm doing, but also I have accountability partners. So once a week, we set our intentions for what we're going to do and how many times and when we're going to do it. And then when we meet in that week, we review how we did, how we showed up, and why we didn't hold to our commitments. Was there something that got in our way, something that distracted us? What's stopping us? And like looking at ways to either make it easier. You're like, oh yeah, going and doing that after I take the dogs out was not good timing. I'm already in a big rush to get out the door. So I have to do it earlier. I have to set the alarm clock 10 minutes earlier. So looking at it with an accountability partner, or even with yourself, to see how you can make it even easier or simpler, or pick a better time. It helps to have an accountability partner. And it also increases your percentage of success in making it into a habit when you have that accountability. And I just wanted to touch on the fact that one of the things I found is, and I learned this in Tony Robbins, is we either move away from pain or we move towards pleasure. So people are motivated by reward or from avoiding pain. And so I have found that sadly, reward is not as effective for me as a painful penalty. So I have a worry buddy that also operates more towards that. We're trying to work more towards reward. Pay better. So, but finding out which way motivates you more. So if you're like, okay, I said I was going to drink 80 ounces of water every day this week, and I only hit 3 days, maybe you have a consequence. If you didn't hit a minimum of 5 days that week, you have to pay your accountability buddy. You have to Venmo them $100, or you have to do something that you really don't want to do. Or it could be that you get to go to a restaurant you've been wanting to try and have a meal that you've really wanted to have. So it might be a splurge. could be a motorcycle part, it could be a new outfit, whatever the thing is, but you have a reward or you have a penalty. So I wanted to share those tips. Those are tools that can help you succeed with implementing that self-care into a habit that becomes your identity, where you're not having to spend so much energy trying to just take care of the basic minimum foundation of our health and well-being, right? Of our mind, body, and spirit. So I wanted to make sure to touch on all that. And so beyond that, and I did touch on like sleep should be part of that self-care, and that's probably a whole nother topic for another time. But I also wanted to make sure and tell you guys that I'm super excited that on our website, I added in some one-on-one coaching that's available. And then this last week, I also added on heart mantra readings. And you can go on my website to read a little bit more about what those are. But I'm super excited to be offering those. And they're a really enlightening and fun experience. And so I want you to check that out if that's something that sounds interesting to you. And also the usual rate, review, subscribe, follow, all the things. Those all help me build this community that I'm really passionate about. And so I appreciate if you take the time to do that. And if you have questions or want to follow along, all of my contact information is in the show notes. So again, I want to thank you for hanging out and listening this long, and hopefully you got some big ahas or really helpful tools to live your life powered by even more joy.